I remember you said something one time. You said, "Thank God it gets to be easy for you." And I was so used to having had a hard life because my upbringing was not easy, and then I worked a lot to create what I've created. And sometimes I have not allowed myself to choose the easy path. And together we rewired that. It's okay for me to work about topics which are easy to me. It's okay to do it the easy way too. So it's just so cool to be seen in this way. To You've helped me allow myself. That's how I would put it. You've helped me allow myself to say yes to ease. And I love it because this is relaxing. And I remember many sessions where I would breathe, take a deep breath, and then you would tell me, "Look, this is there. Just you're breathing again. So the energy is flowing again. You're relaxing again. You're back." And this is so cool. Yeah, thank God it gets to be easy for me from now on. And it's okay to choose ease.
Welcome to It's Not What You Think, the podcast that takes you on a transformative journey to rewrite your story of greatness and reawaken your soul's purpose. I'm your host, Celine DaCosta, a subconscious mind expert, master coach, and believer in the limitless power and magic that lives within all of us. My intention in this podcast is to propel you into your next level of success so that you are free to create the life that your heart most desires. Through deep, actionable insights, personal stories, and world-class guests, I'll provide you with the tools, strategies, and resources you need to unlock the fullest expression of who you're meant to be in this lifetime so that you can consciously design a reality that is beyond what you could have ever dreamed of. Join me on this journey to personal growth and evolution, and let's live our lives in accordance with our highest soul's calling. This podcast is your weekly check-in to help this path become more simple, obtainable, and fun. Thank you for tuning in today, and now let's dive in. Hello, soul family. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I'm here today with a very special guest, the beautiful Anne-Claire. Hi, Anne-Claire. Welcome.
Hi, Celine. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course. So Anne-Claire is a superwoman. She is a powerhouse. You will learn more about her throughout this episode. And I had the privilege of having her as a client for about 9 months. We did some really beautiful, deep work together in private coaching as well as the in-person VIP day. And I wanted to bring Anne-Claire in to talk about her journey of really growing from an already successful business to an even more successful business, and what really happens behind the scenes when we decide to quote unquote level up. It's one thing to say, I want to evolve to my next level. It's one thing to say, I want to step up in my business, or I want to grow my business to the next level. These are all really nice words to say. But what I really want to dive into today's episode is, what does it look like behind the scenes? What does it feel like to go through these powerful transitions and transformations? And that's what Mia and Anne-Claire will be unpacking today through the lens of the work that we did together. So, Anne-Claire, before we dive into quote unquote the work, would you be able to share with us a bit about you, what you do, so whoever's listening has a pulse on your talents, on your gifts, and what you are currently serving the world with?
Yeah. Thank you. I'm super happy to be here today and to be able to share my gratitude for working together last year, because and up to when did we finish? Was it the beginning of this year? And then and so much has changed already, and I'm super happy to be able to share about that. So a little bit about myself. I live in Bali. I am 40 years old. I come from France, and I've been living abroad for a while now. I've been working in French for a long time. I've been an entrepreneur since 2012. I am not an overnight success. I've created my success taking my time, making it beautiful years after years. And it's really a solid business, which I took to €1 million in 2022. 1 million that year. And I didn't expect that because I didn't have such a great ambition before. And it happened because I just let it unfold. And everything was very gracious in my journey, because I started as a naturopath to heal my problems. I had insomnia and anxiety, and then I became an EFT practitioner, and then I became a coach. And I created online programs and teaching, and I also wrote 12 books. So I was very prolific, and a lot has happened, and I created a beautiful network, a beautiful community. And about a year ago, I felt that it was about time to level up my game. And although I did achieve a great level of success, I felt that it was only like a facet of me, and that I wanted to access other facets and share them with the world. And I was not daring to do it so much. So that's why I reached out to you. And you've helped me a lot with that.
Yeah. Beautiful. So, let's dive deeper into that, like before you reached out and why you reached out, because it's a really important moment, of how do you decide when you already have a prolific business, it's making income, things are going well. But I'm curious as to what is that point for you where you're like, actually, I need to up level. Like if we zoom into that moment, because I think it's such it's such a word we use as in visionaries. I need to up level. I need to up level. I need to up level. But if we zoom in, what was that moment for you? And if we zoom in further, what was the moment where you said, you know what? I actually think I need help with this. And then this is how I'm gonna reach out for that help, because it's also a whole process of deciding, wait, hold on, I do think I need support. And then how do how did you arrive essentially at my doorstep? There's a whole process, there's a whole universe behind that.
Yeah. Well, I've had coaches. Obviously, what I've created, I didn't do just by myself. I needed to see in the angles what I was not seeing by myself. I had needed people who asked me the right questions so that I could move forward and really dare to create what I've created before. But I was at a point where I thought I wanted something new. And also, I had just moved to Bali. So there was a reset for me. It was a reset time. I'm going to change my habits. I'm going to change the way I do my business. I'm going to take some more time apart, because when I used to live before in Costa Rica, I was in this life where I was basically working and going to the beach and spending time with my husband. And that's it. I had a very simple life. And then when I moved to Bali, I had more, I would say my life was more creative, in the sense of meeting more people, having access to different things, and navigating everything together. And it felt like the right timing to onboard with a new coaching. And I was not necessarily looking for a coach, but somehow life put you on my journey. I didn't know if it would come in the form of a coach or of a training or books. I didn't know what would happen. I knew I wanted something to make a shift, but I didn't know what. And something happened that someone told me about you. And then I realized we have a friend in common. And then I saw that you had worked with people that I admire very much. It was Sorel Amor and Manifestation Babe, Catherine Zenkina. And all of this together made me think, oh, she might be the one for me. Like, I'm going to reach out. And then I just texted you on Instagram, I think, and you had such a sweet response. I felt right away that I felt that the energy was right. And then, and bought it. Yeah.
And there you were, you decided.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really beautiful, what you're sharing, because it reminds me as well, one of the core values, which I know we've gone through values work together in our work as well, is human connection. So it's really refreshing. It doesn't get old every time I hear a client say, because it looks like from the outside that you found me on Instagram, but you actually found me before you found me on Instagram. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And it reminds me of the power of human connection, word of mouth referral, and just like feeling like that person is the right person for you. And I think that's really important, because it's also when I'm thinking about leveling up. There's a few things you said here that are really golden nuggets for people who, think, okay, well, my business is going well. Like, why don't I feel right? Why does something feel off? and that importance that when we are high powered, high performing, like, vision makers, change makers on the planet, it's always so important to have that support and not be shy about it. And know that that support, when you're ready to for help, it will come,
Yeah.
and it will arrive if you allow it, instead of like, you didn't go on Google and like or like push, let me find this person, da, da, da. You actually just said, you opened yourself up, you said, I need a change, and then that came through the power of, hearing in the grapevines and mutual friends and things like that. So it's really potent, because as coaches, I think it's one of the most powerful things, more than social media, more than anything else. It's word of mouth. And ultimately clients decide to make those, big investments because of that resonance that they feel with that person. So it's really cool, because there's a million coaches in the world, there's a million clients you could have, but at the end of the day, we find each other because of how we feel. Beautiful.
I trusted you before I even know you. I
Mm.
had a feeling that you were the right person to take me where I needed to go.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that, because it also ties into something that I know you and I both really, really are on the same page on. And I know this is part of what your entire business was founded on, which is coming from the heart, and really building a business that's heart centered and that values people above all else, that values connection. And I know you are all about that, which is why, you're a soulmate client for me. It's because we see eye to eye on so many of these very, very important core principles. And it's like, for anyone who's listening, let this be your evidence that this is how it works. That when you are in a heart center space, you attract people who are in a heart center space and who value that. And as Anne-Claire says, when you're really showing up authentically and you're sharing your story online, and you're doing it the best way that you can, not perfectly, the right people will find you. So let that be your evidence for that.
Yeah.
So beautiful. The next piece that I'm curious about. So, you came to me and we started we engaged in private work together. And so what I'd love to hear from you is, because I know that there was, what you expected to receive from this experience, and then there were the key transformations that you created in the program. So would you be able to walk us through, like, when you came in, you're like, okay, this is what I think it is, this is what I want it to be, and then what were your biggest like insights and like aha moments that really allowed you to create the key transformations, which you'll be sharing
Mhm.
in your work?
Oh my God, where do I start? Well, I think that the main one, maybe it was the first session or the second one, I don't remember, but that from the beginning, you were able to spot where I was opposing things inside of me. So obviously, I could not move forward because there was one part of me which wanted to, and the other part of me which was fighting, no, don't go there. It's not you, or it's impossible, or it's dangerous, or something. And then you helped me with that to really see it. Oh, look, obviously it's impossible for you to go because there is a part of you which is not safe. So it was just so beautiful. And I remember that our sessions were so mind blowing that I was exhausted at the end. And you told me that you said, don't do much afterwards. Take a bath, go to bed, do something gentle for yourself. And that's so true. So if there is something I can share with people, it's just take it, yeah, just give yourself love after your sessions with Celine, because this is powerful and this is intense, and then it requires some time for integration. And you really helped me face where I thought I should be in a certain way, or where I had, yeah, internal battles, so that I could release that energy, so that I could finally come back to myself and things could get simpler. If there would be a keyword, it would be simple. I remember that. It came back often that I was making things more complicated than I want actually to allow them to be, because it can be simple, and it is now.
Beautiful. Yeah, and to also zoom in, because I know that this is something that happens with it's such a common sticking point that I find with clients, students, which is that when we are at that point, going back to that piece of your business is going well, you're thriving, but you need to make a change. But then if you just if you knew if it's the blind spot, if you just knew what you needed to do, you just do it, but you weren't. And what you're sharing, what you're highlighting, and Claire, is so important, which is that many times when we hit a point where we're stuck and no amount of strategy seems to be solving the problem, no amount of like, talk therapy or like things you're doing, but things aren't moving forward efficiently. What I have found is there's a parts conflict, and this is also part of psychology, and different modalities talk about parts work, where we will have internal conflicts within ourselves and different parts of us that are completely in contradiction with each other. And then what that creates is like this fighting match where both people are just both parts of us are um beating the other one up without any kind of resolution. And one of the things that I find to be really common in women who are highly driven and successful, like ourselves, is that there will be like what I refer to as the badass bitch, the one that's like, okay, we need to get things done. We need to do it now. We need to do more. Hold on. Like there's tasks on the list. Get it done. Go, go, go. And then what I found is that there's also like the feminine goddess that just wants to be like, okay, I want to bubble bath, I want to relax, and I want to do nothing. And I find this to be one of the most common patterns in this profile of women is like, but I gotta get things done. But I just want to relax. But I gotta get things done. But I don't want to do anything. But I gotta get things done. And then what I work a lot with my my female clients on this one, which is that then there's that part that's like, I gotta get it done. And so you're always pushing yourself, which I know is something that you were also struggling with. And then there's the one that's like, but I just want to be like a woman and dance and like be my feminine energy, and until the two learn how to see each other and see each other for their gifts and get along, it just keeps like go 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 and then collapse.
Yeah.
And then you rest and then you're like, oh, I gotta go. And it creates a very toxic inner dynamic. So what you're referring to, just for anyone who's listening who might relate to having had this inner conflict before, what you're referring to can look like, it depends on your specific situation. I'm just referring to like the larger pattern that I see to be very common. It looks like maybe two parts of you are fighting themselves. And so until you do the parts work and really come into resolution with these conflicting parts of yourself, that's what can keep you stuck. And it can be very frustrating because for most people it's a complete blind spot and they don't see it. So then they think it's like they need to invest more in a Facebook ads, and they think it's their sales page, and it might be the case, but before that comes the internal resolution, so that inner peace can be created. And from that inner peace, then you can look at the quote unquote problems, and you can look at the strategies, and you have so much clarity as to which one is the right one for your business, because you're filtering it through the lens of peace and calm and inner resolution as opposed to inner conflict. So that's one piece. And the other piece that you mentioned that's also super important for anyone who's listening is the importance of simplicity. And yes, and Claire, my dear Anne Claire, you were making it very complicated. And but that's part of my job, is to ask the question: how can this be easier? How can this be? But actually, rather than easier, I would say the better word is simpler, because it's not always easy, but it's simpler. And I really watched you through our time together just make things simpler and simpler and simpler. And as you did, you just kept expanding and expanding and expanding. So I love if you could share, for people who are making their life very complicated right now, unnecessarily listening to this, being like, how do I make my life simpler? It'd be really awesome if you can share your process of how you were able to go from I'm making it too complicated to hold on, there's a simpler way. And what were the benefits of you taking this new approach?
Yeah. I think it really has to do with acknowledging my uniqueness, and you've helped me with that, and not trying to be what I'm not. And I remember having this inner fight about wanting to be this ambitious woman which goes into the English market, and thinking that I have to be a certain way to do it. And then understanding that because of who I am, just everything that I am, this is enough. and
Mm,
that my uniqueness will be seen by the right people. And this is the most simplest thing in the world. But I couldn't figure it out by myself because I didn't know that it was enough. And it was valuable for me to reach out to the English market. And that created a lot of doubt and resistance in me to go create my programs in English, to just put my podcast in English, and just all the things. And I had so much, it created complication, which was not necessary. I was losing energy. I was just constantly thinking about it instead of just doing it simply.
mm,
And yeah, we talked a lot about that. So that was, I think that was one of the main work that we've done together. It's really understanding that I can play with parts of me so that I can show up in certain ways in English and show up in certain ways in French, and that's okay. And it doesn't have to be that I have to put another costume that doesn't fit me and that is not right for me and that makes my life complicated. No, it can be really simple. And I can just let my light shine through me in many languages and in different ways and play with it and get to have fun with it. And I loved it.
mm. I love it. Yeah. And I remember, it's one of the ways that I see entrepreneurs get really stuck, especially when it comes to their brand and their image, which is, part of what you went through. But I'm speaking as well to the larger pattern that I see happening in the industry, and with clients that come to me, is this self constraint that happens of I need to be a certain person and I need to look a certain way. And I need to show up online a specific way for people to perceive me a specific way. And most of the times it doesn't even happen on purpose. It's not like anyone's setting themselves out there to, I'm like, hey, I'm going to go online. I'm going to create a brand. I'm going to limit myself and be a certain person and not be my full authentic expression. No one's like doing it on purpose. It's very much a brainwashing that happens unconsciously in the social media paradigm. And part of what I believe our work is as heart led entrepreneurs is to reclaim our voice, to reclaim our sovereignty, to reclaim our authenticity in the midst of the noise. And, such as yourself, when people come to me, especially with the brand story work that I do as well, I find them getting very, yeah, like they're by the time they come to me, they're like in this tight little box that they've actually created for themselves out of their belief systems of how they should look like in order to dot 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 be accepted. And of course there's a lot of untangling that needs to be done as you and I have done in our work together, because within that box is, the walls that create that box are all around what your childhood and who you thought you needed to be growing up, how you were conditioned to behave growing up, what was expected of you in your identity, from your caretakers, from the way that you grew up, the culture that you grew up, not just your caretakers, but also your social economic conditions that essentially starts to create this, what Carl Jung, the famous psychologist, calls like this character armor of who we think that we need to be. And as we become adults and as we become entrepreneurs and as we become visible entrepreneurs, we bring that into our work unconsciously. So what you are describing was really the process of, how do I see myself when I'm in this box? And that's why it's so helpful. And, I'm of course, in this specific case, I was your mentor, but I also have my mentors that help me do the same work, because we are our own blind spots. And in this container, what we were able to do is really peel back. My job is to see you for your potency, for who you are, in your soul, and everything, your potential that you're able to do. And anything that's obstructing that is the limiting belief systems. It's the conditioning that needs to be peeled back through this deep work that, yes, requires some recovery sometimes, some integration time, because it's a deep shedding of identification and shedding of these old identities that no longer serves. And what I watched you do is, number one, very courageously, because it takes courage to first say, hey, I'm in a box, to second say, hey, can you help me get out of the box? And third is where a lot of people just don't make progress, which is, I'm going to do the work and I'm going to do what it takes and I'm going to change my beliefs and I'm going to act differently in order for me to actually step out of the box. Because to step out of the box, it means you need to embody a different way of being and actually take the action to become it. And so with that, it was just layers and layers and layers. And the other piece of the process you've described that is really interesting, when you said, well, I can show up this way with this in this situation and this way in that situation, because it stops being at one point when you really truly start to embrace your authenticity and who you are here to be on this planet and express yourself unapologetically. At one point, it stops becoming, oh, I'm going to the English market, I'm going to put on this mask. I'm going to go to the French market, I'm going to put on this mask. I'm going to go home to my family, I'm putting on this mask. But rather, it becomes like a dress up of, I'm going on this plate today. Like, what's the outfit I'm going to wear? The energetics of it is different because in the previous one is, I need to be a different person and I need to fit in a different box. The second is, what brings me joy to show up today? How do I feel like showing up today? It's like playing dress up, or, for us women, it's the difference between, I'm the maiden, and now I'm the mother, and now I'm the seductress, and now I'm the crone. It's like you're just shape shifting. But all of those shape shifts are still at their core foundation, authentically you. So for anyone's, who's listening to Anne-Claire and relating to the story, I think it's really potent to know that you can have different ways, but how you do it and the energy from which you do it, it really matters. So, yeah, with all that being said, then I'd be really curious, and Claire, I know that you said the simplicity, this piece around simplicity and really owning your identity, or really big pieces that you reclaimed for yourself in this work. And I'd be really curious as well if you could share with us, what would you say were, other key transformations that you experienced during our time together and after?
Yeah, I think also allowing myself to take the time that I need and ask for help and communicate that to my team. I remember at the beginning of this year, I felt the urgency to have a vision for my company and to communicate it to my team. And then you helped me see that I didn't have to have everything figured out. If I'm myself, I'm in the process of figuring things out. So
Mhm.
that was a big one for me because for years I felt, when I was, yeah, for years I had a vision, January 1st, I was communicating to my team. And this year I was more, okay, we're going to work in English. I know that for sure, but I don't know when we're going to launch what. And we're going to work about love, but I don't know when we're going to launch the first product. So I felt that I had to have answers for them before having them, but I couldn't invent them if they were not ready. And you've helped me actually just create a beautiful conversation and telling them with all my heart, well, we're going to do this together and it's going to be beautiful. And I don't know how yet, but I trust you and I trust myself that we're going to make it happen. And it was awesome because I didn't expect such a reaction, but they have so much faith in what we're creating. It was very uplifting for all of us to just connect with that energy. I loved it. And then the vision came. So we didn't have to force it. It came on time and I loved it.
Mhm. Yeah, it goes back to that value, of connection and embracing ourselves in our imperfection when we are doing this work. And what you said is really true. My philosophy, at least, is that so long as I'm in my heart and I'm authentically myself, I can't fuck it up. It's just I can't. It's impossible. Something I learned recently that blew my mind away is the highest possible frequency that you can be operating in actually isn't love. It's authenticity. It vibrates higher than love. And when I learned that, it like it rearranged my entire perspective because I finally understood on a deeper level why it's okay for me to be sad, for me to have a bad day, or for me to be imperfect, because and not to not be love in a moment. If I'm having like a moment and I'm not being love, it's actually, I can still be at the highest possible vibrational frequency if I am just being authentic to what is alive in me in that moment and who I am. And so what I find is that, especially because I attract a lot of spiritual entrepreneurs, and they come and they're like, I'm not low vibe. I'm having a terrible day. Like, things are like, my company's going to shit because I'm cranky and like, I don't know how to get out of it. And it's like, you don't have to get out of it. You just need to own like where you are and be authentic. And of course, be mature about it and, implement your tools so that you're not projecting or lashing out at people. So we want to own our experience. But when we are in our true experience, we don't have to have all the answers. We don't have to know everything, and we don't have to pretend to know, because that would be inauthentic. So what you experienced, I remember you were really experiencing a lot of contraction around
Mhm.
how to have this conversation with my team and what do I do? And there was issues around abandonment and fears that were coming up. But when we really just dropped you into like the, hey, do you like your team? Yes. Is it a good team? Yes. You want to keep them? Yes. So long as all of those, foundations are in place, and you felt grounded that this was the right team for you, then the next step was clear, which is be authentically who you are, and let them know where you're at. And your team responded so beautifully. But not only that, when you did that, it moved the energy, it shifted the energy from contraction to expansion, and your team was, positively infected by that. And then you were able to create something bigger because everyone was at that higher frequency of authenticity. So it's really beautiful, because when we're starting our team, and I've gone through this so many times, where I will just mind fuck myself about all, like, having conversations in my mind about what the thing, and they're going to be disappointed in me, and they're not going to follow me anymore, and everyone's going to quit. Like, I've had so many of these narratives, but I realized that when I drop in and I'm just fully transparent with my team from my heart, they've always received me. And not only that, it opened up the space for all us to co-create together and find a solution as a team, which is why we're on a team, right? Counterintuitively. So it's really beautiful that you share that, as I know I've personally battled with this in the past, and I've taken so many clients through this process of really understanding that we need to own our shit, and we need to do our own processing and apply our own tools. But when we come from that place, then solutions are always available, and we don't always need to know when, how. We don't need to control all of it, and we can do it imperfectly. So that's a beautiful share. Thank you so much. And are there any other like key pieces that feel relevant to share around, the key inner transformations that you experienced?
Yeah, many. One other would be, I remember you said something one time. You said, "Thank God it gets to be easy for you." And yeah, I was so used to having had a hard life because my upbringing was not easy, and then I worked a lot to create what I've created. And sometimes I have not allowed myself to choose the easy path. And together we rewired that. It's okay for me to work about topics which are easy to me. It's okay to do it the easy way too. So this is it's just so cool to be seen in this way. To You've helped me allow myself. That's how I would put it. You've helped me allow myself to say yes to ease. And I
Mm.
love it because this is relaxing. And I remember many sessions where I would breathe, take a deep breath, and then you would tell me, "Look, this is there. Just you're breathing again. So the energy is flowing again. You're relaxing again. You're back." And this is so cool. Yeah, thank God it gets to be easy for me from now on. And it's okay to choose ease.
Yeah. It's another big one, this addiction to it being hard. And, it's, again, in my studies with neuroscience and, the way, the biology of change, there is a scientific explanation to why we do this to ourselves. It's not because we're crazy and we want to torture ourselves. It's because when we grow up, especially from childhood in environments that are highly stressful, that highly depend us to be in survival mode, that has trained us to do more, to constantly be on edge, to constantly need to guard ourselves so that we are creating, so that we're doing, so that we can be safe, so that we can experience love from our caretaker. Whatever our individual story is, the collective story, it's quite common, especially in the Western world, that yeah, we grew up in this state of I need to perform in order to be good enough. I need to do more in order for me to be safe.
Yeah.
And it's a story. This is a pattern that I find in, I would say, the vast majority of the people that I work with. Again, the avatar being the high performer, the heart-led entrepreneur who really wants to make a change in the world. And for many, many reasons, we want to create this impact from like the heart, like from true, true reasons. And sometimes, many times, most times, there's also a trauma response that is associated with that needs to be untangled. It needs to be, your true heart-led motivations and true soul purpose needs to be uncoupled from the trauma and the fear that lives in the body, which is part of the work that we did through somatic practices like breath work and sound breath movement. And what I find is that when we start to dissolve this piece and start to identify why is it that I'm making it so hard, and that's what was happening for you, because there were some things that come, you are such a genius in, and they come so easy to you. It's like breathing air, but because it's so easy to you, you weren't even seeing your own genius, because it was like, oh, what do you mean? I'm just picking up my cup and drinking water. Like, what's so special about that? But it's like, what are you talking about? This is freaking gold that's like coming out of your mouth. You need to turn this into a program. Like, people need this, like a book, your next book. But we when we have that addiction of, well, it needs to be hard in order for it to be worth it, or I need to put out all this effort in to get this much output in order for it to make sense. Otherwise, it's not right. Otherwise, something's wrong. Otherwise, I need to doubt it, or like, I'm being tricked or whatever. That's all part of that conditioning and that emotional addiction to stress that we need to recover from, to be honest, when we are going on this journey. If we do want to live a simpler life, if we do want it to be easy, if we want to be in our zone of genius and to be in our soul's purpose and to create something without needing to, kill ourselves, or, out, just burn out or kill our nervous system in the process, to really do it from that easeful, expansive state, we've got to heal the part of us that believes it needs to be hard. And it looks like deep inner work, which we've done together, to really go into the soma, into the body, and unpack the story through the body, so that it can be released, because that's how you set yourself free from it needing to be hard. It's not something you can strategize yourself into, because when we try to mentally make it less hard, if we're wired to look for the hardest path, we're going to look for the hardest path unconsciously. But when we let go of that need, then the easier path, the simpler path presents itself. So that's super valuable. Thank you. And yeah, I mean, I know there's like a lot of pieces here, you share with me. But does that feel like, is there any other piece that you feel wants to come through in terms of like what really shifted for you?
Maybe another one. There was a piece around honoring the ideas that flow through me. And I felt a bit disempowered sometimes, because there is a momentum when you get an idea. There is oh my God, I got this beautiful idea and I must do something with it. And I didn't know I had this belief, which was really deeply engraved, that if I don't honor the idea, I'm not a great host for ideas, and then they will not come to me again. I didn't know I thought that. I didn't know I believed that. So you've helped me identify that it's okay to say yes or to say no to a project, to an idea that flows through me because it's not the right timing, or simply I don't want to. Maybe I prefer to go dancing for a week, and that's fine. I love this fun. And yeah, I don't know where I picked it up. Yeah, I just had this thought that it's not okay to say no to a great idea, but it
Mm.
is. She's going to fly away and find another host, and there will be another one later on for me.
I love that. Yeah, I think what I share with you when it was Elizabeth Gilbert's book, gosh, Big Magic.
Magic.
It really supported me a lot with understanding this concept, which is, again, as visionary entrepreneurs, we are never going to run out of ideas. Like there's way more ideas than we have like life to live. You know what I mean? Like it's just constant. And I know a lot of my clients are super creative, like visionary creatives, and this is something that haunts them. It haunts me too. Until I started to learn to practice discipline around this. And if we are operating from a space of scarcity, then the idea, basically the belief is that if I don't capitalize on this idea, it will leave me. But when we start to shift into that abundance mindset when it comes to ideas, then it's what we talked about, which is that there's an abundance of ideas, and I don't own the ideas. The ideas want to be birthed because the ideas, are here to be birthed. And they're going to come knocking on your door if your light bulb is on. If you're like, hi, I'm open, I'm an ideas person, I'm creative, I'm available, I'm in an expanded state of being, like, hi, then all the ideas are going to be like, oh my God, her, go to her. Right.
Yes,
But
okay.
then what I've noticed, and something that I noticed with you, I coached you out of it, and I also noticed with a lot of clients is like they become victim to their own ideas, where it's like, oh, I have an idea tonight, I have to execute on it. I have an idea tomorrow, oh fuck, now I have another course that I have to do, and now I have this other book that I need to write, and it's like, no, when you come into your power and you come into your discernment, then it's like it's just a matter of asking, do I, like you said, do I have space for this right now? Do I want it? And if the answer is no, then you can either write it down and then forget about it. If it's really, really like, if the idea really picked you, it's not going to leave.
Mm.
It's going to keep knocking on your door. But if it's just an idea that wants a host, then it's just going to go and be birthed somewhere else by someone else who's ready to pick it up now. And when we have like this more fluid approach to it, what I noticed is that number one, ideas really never leave us, but they will leave us alone in a more respectful way when we can say, thank you so much, appreciate you, love you, you're great. No, right now, I don't have the capacity for this in this moment. Or, hey, how about I write you down? And if you still want me, then let's talk in 6 months when I'm ready to receive you, And I actually, I even think about my program, Business by Soul. When it came knocking on my door, I was like, what? Me? No, I'm not the right person. Please go to the person who's actually equipped to be doing this. And it just kept knocking on my door, and it kept knocking on my door. And I was like, all right, fine, show me. And the program birthed itself through me. And I had no idea where I was taking it, because it was just like, all right, it took my hand and it was like, just birth me. You're the one. And I birthed this entire program. And, I ran the first cohort last year. And now my students are giving me their testimonials, or sharing with me their experience. And I'm like, what? I'm just absolutely blown away, because I wasn't designing this program being like, okay, I'm going to make this program about storytelling, and then this is the outcome, and then when you leave, you're going to get this and this and that. I kind of just, I was taken aback and surprised by the potency of its own idea. So sometimes, the book can just take you
Yeah.
and you don't even know where it's going. So I really, really love that. Beautiful. So these are some incredible pieces that I hope, anyone who's listening will get a lot of value, really relatable. I know myself, I see myself in all of what you're saying. I've been through all of it. And maybe that's why I'm able to,
Yeah.
take people on the journey with me as well. I'd be really curious as well, because these are a lot of internal pieces that have shifted for you. And I'd be curious to know, of all of these internal rearrangements that happened, that happened for you while you were going through this deep transformation, what would you say as a result, if we were to pop out on the other side of the journey and look at the tangible changes that you made in your life, what would you say would be those external results that you created?
Well, there are a few. I would say the main ones are the fact that I work in English. So I'm actually showing up in English. Like, it's been already 2, 3 months, and I'm doing without having even a second thought. Like I know I'm 100% all in, and I love it. And I used to be, one foot in, one foot out. Like, oh, I'm doing one podcast in English and then I'm doing three in French. No, I'm done. I'm doing almost all of them in English. I'm ready for it. This is who I am. This is what I do. That's my choice. And I think I over adapted for a long time to my community because I spent a lot of time building it, and I love them and they love me and I wanted to serve them with all my heart. But the way I want to evolve is bigger, is greater, is with a bigger community. I want to touch more people and I'm ready for it. And also, I live in English. I've been living in English for years with my husband, with my boyfriend. My life is in English. So I was kind of, putting myself in the shoebox instead of just being out there in the world. So it's a relief and I'm happy to be doing it. So I'm having a blast translating one of my main programs right now in English. It's called Make Money from the Heart. And I also published my book in English when we were working together, Millionaire from the Heart. And there will be more. I don't know if it will be new programs, probably new programs, and also some of my former programs, which I will be translating into English. And I'm just, it's rolling, it's just, I'm just doing it. So that's one. And I get a lot of positive feedback. And I think it's because of what I put out there. Because I used to try to do it in the past, and people would just, write me and say, I liked you better when you work in French. And now it's not happening anymore. Or maybe it has happened, but I don't even look at it. I don't know. It's not touching me anymore. But I get a lot of positive feedback with people who feel inspired by my choice. So I have a lot of support from my community, which I didn't have before because I think I was not ready. And now they feel that I'm ready. So they write me and they say, oh, I don't speak such good English, but you inspire me to actually listen to your podcast, to do your program, because I also want to know what you're doing in English. So you're taking me there. So this is a shift. It's an internal shift that led me to the external shift. And then I get external feedbacks. And it's beautiful. So this is awesome. So that's one big one. And then the second one, I would say the second really big one too, is being at peace with making money with money. Because I became really good at making money from the value that I bring of my service in the world, my programs, my coaching. And I had a lot of money sleeping on a bank account. And my CFO was just, constantly sending my way opportunities. Do you want to do investments? Are you ready to do something with your money? I was always postponing that. And I was giving him headaches. Like, oh my God, so much money sleeping. And when we worked together, I made beautiful investments. So now I'm an investor and my money makes money, which is important. Finally, I was ready. So I became a owner, and it's an honor. And we talked about it, I remember, during the VIP day. And I had those beliefs that owning a house was heavy and that was complicated. That there would be challenges and everything, and we rewired that to make it fun and lighter. And I get to play with this house, and I want to make it a creator house for me to live in. And then if I choose to no longer live there, I'm gonna rent it out to people like us because they want the house to be healthy. They want a sauna like I do. They want a podcast room like I do. All the things. And because I make these bold choices, it's a tailor-made house for me and for people like us who are healthy, heart-led, and creators. And it's fun. I'm loving doing it. And I also invested in different projects where my heart is, and it brings me a lot of money. And thank you for that because it kind of unlocked something which was tight. But now I make money with money.
Music to my ears, yeah. It's funny as you were saying that about the house. Um, I recently purchased an apartment in Bali, and what you're saying, this apartment, I made it for the creative, spiritual, and people like us, the heart-led spirit, entrepreneur. It's in Canggu, and it's funny you're saying, oh, it has a sauna. I'm like, mine has a sauna. It has a bathtub. It has an office with a really clean background for podcast recording. So it's like, it's funny you say that because it's such a beautiful mirror. That
Yeah.
I've also created something similar for very similar reasons. But I didn't, when you're saying that, we didn't talk about this part. So it's just incredible, how the universe works and you're
I
like
told
mirroring
you,
back to
this
me.
is what we need, you know? We need a healthy
Yeah.
mattress. We need
Yeah.
linen bed sheets.
Uh-huh. Exactly. Exactly. Sacred geometry paintings,
Exactly.
candles, crystal. Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. So these are huge, huge, huge shifts. And what I'd love to illustrate, and what's really cool about your share about your biggest tangible results, and Claire, is that, you came in, oh, I want to like work on my image and I work on my brand story and how I need to show up. And then you popped out and you're like, I'm an investor now and I'm making all this money. And I think it's really important to highlight this because I know when it comes to like deep transformational work, I know for sure in my work, when you're in my world, a lot of people come and they think, oh, there's like this element also of like the ego that thinks like it wants to control. And it's like, okay, I think I need to change this strategy, that strategy, and I need to work on my story. And this is what I need in order for me to get the results that I want. And you know this better than anyone that when you come into my world, I'm like, okay, I hear you on everything. Like I want you to have what you want, but more importantly than that, we need to get clear on whether that's actually what you want. Because that's where I see a lot of people building empires or entire, realities pushing upwards, thinking that they know what they need and going into like overdrive to create the thing that they think they want. But a really important piece, I would say the core piece of this work, is that we need to come back into soul. We need to go beyond the ego and reinstate that relationship to soul and ask soul, what is it that I really want to create? What is it that I'm here to create? It's a different question. And in our work together, it's like that character armor had to drop, and we took one layer down, one layer down, one layer down, and another one. And as you drop deeper into your soul essence and into your heart, which is the human, soul is spirit, heart is the human, and we really integrated the two together, it became clear to you what you needed to do and how you needed to show up. And it had nothing to do with what you thought on day one was supposed to happen. And so a beautiful part of your journey is that it's this incredible testament to what happens when you actually trust, when you drop into your heart and you become authentic. The answers will present themselves in ways that the mind couldn't have imagined. And that's why it was so important when you said, I felt you were the right person for me. Like I felt it in my heart. Because if you were to just maybe look at a resume or the more like ego, the mental things, I might not have been the right fit for what you were looking for, whatever it was, but you had this feeling. And that's the universe's way. I'm just a mirror for the universe to communicate with you for, as you are for me. And when we start getting into that deeper connection, then we all we need to do is really be authentic, be in our soul. And like I said, nothing can go wrong. And so your journey is such a beautiful illustration of how you popped out on the other side, a completely different woman with completely different and better results than you thought you were going to get from your ego in the beginning. And that's all because you showed up and did the work. And I believe, I mean, this is from what clients have said, and this from me doing this work myself, is that the biggest result you can possibly get is like becoming the person that you are, and just becoming better, more connected, more authentic. Like that is the biggest thing. And everything else, the investments, the money, making money, the English, the courses, everything just naturally emerges from that space. So that's something that I find really, really beautiful about the way you've shared your story. So, as we begin to wrap up this story, it'd be really, we've covered a lot of pieces in today's episode, and there's a lot of things for anyone who's listening to think about and contemplate. But what I'd love to hear from you, and Claire, is if we were to kind of, put a big bow and summarize everything that we've just talked about, what would you say is like the biggest top 3 core transformations from before you came into this program to after doing this work? Like, what would be like the summary, the too long didn't read version?
Yeah. Well, first thing first is um, I can show up authentically with everything that I am, with my simplicity, and be seen in a bigger market than the one that I was before, without having to transform myself, without having to put more makeup. As I said, for the people who don't know about it, like I had this image that I had to be more American, with fake lashes and all the things. Although I'm very French, and that's okay with the French class, as we say in French, just a French touch. And that's totally fine to bring that into my work in English. So that's the one big takeaway. Second one was it gets to be easy, and allowing it is actually a gift for me and also for the world, because the simplicity is much needed in my life as it is needed in my client's life. So I think what I'm allowing is also for others. So it's just beautiful to do that. And the last one is actually, it's also related to ease when I connect to that, because money doesn't have to come always in the way that I have to make it happen. But money can just support me in many ways just because I make it work by itself. Because I'm smart about it. And remember, we talked about it too, about the fact that sometimes I thought it was boring, but sometimes it's okay, a little bit of boring, so that I have passive income and then I have more freedom. And this freedom is actually very joyful. And this is also a great piece.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you so much. And as we also, the other thing that I'd love to ask you about your honest opinion on is, now that you have gone through this work, now that you have experienced the transformations of, this deep dive that you've done with your soul, who would you recommend this? If anyone is thinking about, okay, I'm really curious about doing this work in a private setting. I would love to first go into the private, and I know you've taken some of my courses, and that will be my next question. But who would you say, if anyone's listening right now and they're like, okay, I'm interested in this work, I'd like to do this work, but not sure, I need more information. Who would you recommend this to?
Or anyone. Because, I mean, anyone has a great potential. Anyone who feels that they just tapped into their potential and that they feel limited in a way, but they don't know how. They don't know how they limit themselves and know they're doing that to themselves. So they have to have this awareness, because otherwise it's just putting them into facing something that they don't want to see. So you have to be willing to see what you're doing to yourself. So I would say for those people who are ready for this, and it's a little bit like this meme, where there's like um, a boot, and it's like you feel like you're being stepped on. It's actually your own arm. So,
Yeah, I know this one.
so people who are willing to see that what they're doing to themselves, and who are very curious about what they're capable of, and they want to get in touch with that, and they want to unleash their immense power, and they want to do it in a safe space, because I feel that you've created a safe space between us, and I know that it's a co-creation because I trusted you. So then you could ask me the questions, and obviously it's a connection.
Beautiful. And there's also one of the thing that people ask about when it comes to this work. Of course, the deepest most, highest proximity way of doing it would be the private one-on-one work. And also, there's people listening that it might not be an option for them right now. And what they would prefer to do is either do my group program, Business by Soul, come into the mastermind, or do one of the self-led courses. And in your experience, having also done, the courses, the online material, would you be able to speak into, what value you found from the courses and who you would recommend those for?
Yeah. Well, I've mostly done the story course. What's the
Mhm.
name again of it?
School of Story.
Yeah, I really liked it. It was really enlightening for me, and I did the exercises, and I loved the workbooks, and that's it. I didn't work much on the other courses. I didn't make the most of it, just because I wanted the one-on-one. I knew what I
Yeah.
wanted. That was very clear to me. And also, I spent enough time in front of my computer, and it was very much a year of dancing. So I was very happy with the private time that we had together because we went straight to what I needed to work on. So for me,
Mhm. Mm.
yeah, I
Mhm.
loved it.
Mhm. Yeah, and and I'm glad that you're speaking into this, because for some people, I'm like this too. I'm exactly like that. For me, if there's a one-on-one option, 9 out of 10 times I'm going to take it.
Yeah,
And also, the benefit of the courses is to be able to laser focus on specific topics. So for example, the one that you took, School of Story, it allowed you to really to be able to download in your head like everything that we were talking about storytelling, so that by the time you came into the session, you already knew what was going on.
exactly.
But it's really potent for some people. They pick a topic and then they want to go to that topic, and that's really, really valuable. So wherever you are in your journey, as you're listening, just know that there are options for you. There's of course the one-on-one deep dive immersion, but there's also different topics that we've spoken about today, such as the brand storytelling, Business by Soul, which is my group coaching program, and there's also a money program, Love Money Again, which is a course on rewiring your money mindset. So there's options for you on my website if you're looking to dive into just one particular topic and receive support on that. Beautiful. So as we begin to wrap up, is there anything, for anyone who's listening now that we've just completed this beautiful journey of talking about your journey, your story, is there anything that you want to complete with?
Yeah, I would like to say thank you. And because you are, and because you do what you do in the world, it just brings me so much joy just knowing that you do this work in the world, because I know that a lot of people who have access to it will give their best. And I want to give my best. And I have this vision that if everybody starts to give their best, we can do so much magic in this world. And yeah, I just want more people to be able to do it because they allow themselves to touch their greatness. And thank you for helping me really reconnect to what's important to me and my truth, and shine my light. And I wish more people would dare to do it, whatever level they are in their businesses, because maybe some people think, oh my God, Anne-Claire did it. She was already at €1 million business. But actually, anybody can do it. They can buy your course, as you said. They can just listen to your podcast and just already have those golden nuggets and feel that, oh my God, yeah, I'm going to work on that. And this is so valuable. And
Mhm.
we need all of you, because if we want to transform this world and make it the most beautiful world that we want to create, we need every single one of you. And yeah, that's all that I want to say. That it's accessible to anyone.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It is accessible to anyone. And that's really important because it can, what I love about what you shared is that it can appear at first glance intimidating when, someone like yourself who already has, the seven-figure business and the success. But the thing is, you started from somewhere to even get
Yes.
here, you know? At one point, you didn't have that. And at one point, a younger version of you would be listening to something like this, like remembering that, oh wow, what if it's possible for me? What if I can do it as well? And that those steps when you're listening, whatever stage you are in your life or your business, it's really important to know that when we're willing to look at ourselves, when we're really looking to make that journey back to soul, back to the heart, it will work out. You will find the right mentor, you will find the right podcast, you will find the right course, or whatever it is that life wants to bring upon you. It will happen, but you first need to believe that it's available and possible for you. And as Anne-Claire said, yeah, we need all of you. So beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. And Claire, for anyone who is curious in learning more about you, could you tell us where we can find you?
Yeah, it's very easy. You can find me with my name, Anne-Claire Meret. I'm on Instagram, mostly active on Instagram, and I'm also on Facebook, YouTube. I have a podcast called Live from the Heart, and you can find English episodes now.
Phew, English episodes. Beautiful. All right, everyone. So thank you so much to you who is listening on the other line right now. We really appreciate your time, your energy, your attention. If there's anything that we've shared today that really struck out to you, that you're like, wow, that is a serious golden nugget, we would love to hear from you. So don't be shy. Take a screenshot, tag me and then Claire. Let us know what really touched you from this episode. And if you really love this episode, then the invitation is to come and give us a 5-star review on Apple. Every time that we receive a review, it helps get this out in front of even more people, even more of the right people. So thank you all for your energy today and for showing up. Thank you, Anne-Claire, for coming in and sharing more of your story. That was really beautiful and so profound on so many levels. And I'm really excited to see where you go in your investment journey, in your English domination journey, and all the other journeys, as we will be keeping in touch. Thank you, Anne-Claire. Thank you, beautiful humans, for tuning in to today's episode of It's Not What You Think. If you loved what you received today, make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on future episodes, and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, as it helps us reach even more amazing listeners like you. If we aren't already connected on social media, come receive even more tips and inspiration by following me on Instagram at Celine DaCosta, or visiting my website at celinedacosta.com. After listening to this episode, I invite you to take a few moments to reflect. What stood out to you? What were your key takeaways or breakthroughs? And if there was one action step you could take from this, what would it be? Thank you again for joining me on this journey. I'm sending you so much love, and I can't wait to connect in the next episode. Until then, keep sharing your unique gifts and living out your most magical life.